Have you ever wondered why some things become incredibly popular while others fade into obscurity? Why some people seem to have all the answers, and how much of our understanding of the world is just common sense? Well, get ready to have your assumptions challenged. In Everything is Obvious Once You Know the Answer, sociologist Duncan J. takes us on a mind-bending journey, revealing that much of what we think we know about the world is, well, not so obvious. Watts begins by tackling the myth of common sense. We often believe that things are obvious in hindsight, that we knew it all along. But he argues that our minds are wired to create a narrative that makes sense after the fact. We fill in the gaps and create a sense of inevitability about past events, even when they were far from predetermined. Consider the Mona Lisa. We often attribute its fame to its artistic merit, but Watts points out that its rise to prominence was largely due to a series of random events, including its theft in 1911, which propelled it into the spotlight. It's not that the painting isn't good, it's that there are countless other artworks that could have achieved similar fame given the same conditions. This highlights a key theme. Outcomes are often influenced by circumstances and chance as much as by intrinsic qualities. Watts exposes what he calls circular reasoning, a trap we often fall into when trying to explain success. We say things like, Harry Potter was successful because it had the perfect mix of magical boarding school and a Cinderella plot, or Facebook was popular because of its user-friendly design and focus on connections. But these explanations only describe the characteristics of the successful thing itself. It doesn't explain why those attributes, in particular, led to success while other seemingly similar things did not. This leads to the idea of cumulative advantage. A small initial advantage can snowball over time, making some things much more popular than others, regardless of their intrinsic quality. This phenomenon, similar to the butterfly effect, means that even with identical starting conditions, different universes can generate completely different outcomes. The popular book, the hit song, the successful company, they all could have been something completely different in a slightly altered world. This is particularly evident in cultural markets, where social influence plays a massive role. We like things because other people like them, leading to the rich get richer effect. So, what about the role of influencers? Common sense tells us that a few special people drive social trends, right? Watts challenges this, pointing out that influencer is an ambiguous term and influence is really hard to measure. It's not as simple as just counting followers or connections. While some people might have a greater reach, the idea that a few exceptional people control trends is largely a myth. Instead, he argues that large social cascades depend less on a few key people and more on a critical mass of easily influenced individuals. In fact, the person who appears to have started a trend might just be an accidental influential, whose actions, even if they seem significant, were just as random and as impactful as the first person in a crowd to cheer. Watts and his colleagues showed this through their Music Lab experiment, where they created artificial worlds in which people listened to and rated music. They found that the most popular songs varied significantly from world to world, showing how much chance and social influence play in the success of a cultural product. This randomness makes prediction incredibly challenging. Even with a lot of data, we often can't accurately foresee which products will succeed, which trends will take off, or which leaders will be effective. This is because we overestimate our ability to understand complex systems and fall prey to the post hoc fallacy, where we assume that because something happened after something else, the first event caused the second. Also highlights that historical explanations are essentially stories, not necessarily causal explanations. They focus on what's interesting, often downplaying complexity and randomness, and creating a narrative that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. These stories can be compelling, but we should remember that they are just one interpretation of events, not necessarily the truth. So what can we do? Watts suggests moving away from trying to solve complex problems with top-down solutions and instead focuses on bootstrapping. He argues that we should learn from the bright spots, existing success stories within a system, and scale those solutions. He also advocates for using crowdsourcing and real-time testing to adapt to change. The key is to measure and react, and to avoid relying on common-sense assumptions. In conclusion, everything is obvious. Once you know the answer is a wake-up call to our often flawed understanding of the world. It challenges us to question our assumptions, embrace complexity, and recognize the role of chance and social influence in shaping our lives and the world around us. It's not about saying that nothing makes sense, but rather that our common-sense explanations are often incomplete or misleading. This book will make you rethink everything you think you know about how the world works. Ready to delve deeper? Get your copy today.